Well, when we bring Tristan on later, he will verify that I did have a PowerPoint. You witnessed it just disappear right before our very eyes. But today we're going to be speaking with Tristan de Frondeville, founder and CEO of SkyCentric, a new ALN member. And typically I'd be scrolling through the slides talking about thanking our members and our patron members and talking about what's coming up. So I'll just cut to the what's coming up part since the PowerPoint faded away. Last week, we had our first in session standards development talk with Cyril Verlet, who's founder and CEO of the CDV Systems, about our asset data structure standard that we're creating. Today, we're talking with Tristan about SkyCentrics and his company, but also how he's involved in creating a business process model standard that gets people from their data structure to having their smart assets be able to talk with each other. That's what we really want to get to, but there's got to be a why to get to that, having their smart assets talk to each other. And everybody's business process model is going to be a little bit different, but we're going to create a standard that is a big enough umbrella to help all organizations guide themselves from their data structure to their assets talking with each other. And Tristan, this is a very interesting part of the building industry, the energy industry, the infrastructure industry. It's a real conglomeration of industries that you're serving. What got you into SkyCentrics and what it does?
So we became aware of an open standard, strange standard called CTA 2045 12 years ago. The idea was that utilities went to big manufacturers of equipment like water heating and HVAC and other things and said, hey, we've envisioned a world where we're going to need to send you signals to use more energy when the grid is clean and less energy when the grid is dirty. So the manufacturers said, well, are you going to do it by Wi-Fi, cellular, or other? And they said, we have 3,000 utilities. They're going to have different opinions. And the manufacturers couldn't make all those SKUs of what we call big iron equipment. So they made this magical USB port for machines called the EcoPort. We're specialists in making modules that plug into that machine, their Wi-Fi, LoRa, et cetera. This port started in residential but was going to go to commercial, so we made this box to talk Modbus and BACnet to give commercial building assets the ability to have this grid signal port. And then once we learned how to talk Modbus and BACnet, we made this box, the Super Sky box, that could basically talk to every machine and system in the building. And because we came from an open standard background, we're part of an open source community, as you know, the Coalition for Smarter Buildings, that works to make multi-vendor open source software, open standards, as I just described, part of how you connect to assets and make them talk to each other.
That's great. We don't need to say anything else. You've got it summarized perfectly. But let's go into a little bit about you and your background. What got you into this space?
Have a house in Tahoe. A window broke when we weren't there. We realized if we'd had a thermostat that could tell us that it was running overtime, we would have been able to know that something was wrong and the window was broken. So way back when, if people want to Google the old time machine of the internet, you'll discover that there was an open standard called USNAP, USNAP, that was developed and first put into a radio thermostat so that you could see it. And it came out before Nest and Ecobee, but the proprietary Apple-backed Nest and Ecobee kind of got a lot of the mind share. But obviously the Linux Foundation and open source software has become much more of a big deal, and the utilities are begging for open standards as a way of connecting to assets. So, but that's where it came from, an icicle breaking a window in Tahoe.
Wow. That's really interesting. So you've been saying the word open consistently, and it's been really a pleasure being involved with the Coalition for Smarter Buildings. The Asset Leadership Network has a memorandum of understanding with them for over a year now, and the open approach, because the Coalition for Smarter Buildings got absorbed into the Linux Foundation, and Coalition for Smarter Buildings was being open in the first place. The Linux Foundation is the mecca of open source. And so things are really moving smoothly in a way that I haven't experienced in the building industry before. And it's neat to say, or it's nice to understand that the drivers really the utilities, the big iron that are calling for the open standards. And now we're helping the building industry connect to that demand signal from big iron.
Well, I think the one thing to remember is after 60 years of these expensive proprietary solutions that I'm sure your audience is familiar with, 98% of commercial buildings in the United States are not connected outside the building. Those machines are not connected outside the building. There's either a BMS or no BMS. So it's really exciting to have building owners, operators, service providers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors, MSIs, architects, and engineers. Everybody's dying, as one of my engineering colleagues said, I just want to see if everything's kind of okay. So yeah, let's free the machines and let people see their buildings and be able to see what's going on at the very least, let alone send them grid signals, because you can't send them grid signals unless they're connected. So let's connect them in a cyber secure, open source software kind of way and bring 21st century technology to our old buildings.
Yes. And we're doing something very different with you in order to explain to people about you. We're showing how you work, which is in this open manner. And for this ALN pilot project, well, it started off being the ALN pilot project, but now we're calling it the PAE Livable Building pilot project because it's about the owner. It's not about us, it's about the owner. And you've been working on that with Kimon Onuma, and you've been sharing information and working on developing open standards with Kimon. And the meeting today is an open meeting to start writing this business process model standard that helps owners go from, they know they need to have structured data, they know they want their assets to talk to each other. Well, what's the why that connects them? And a business process model will help each company go through an umbrella list of things to do to help them understand and drive their internal operations. So let's call Kimon Onuma. Hello, Kimon. And
Hey, Mike.
before we were
Tristan.
talking about the standard that I just built up, Kimon is fresh out of, I believe it was 2 days, talking to PhD students at Penn State University. And can you give us a short synopsis of the real interesting developments that you saw there?
Sure. So I've been connecting with Penn State University for 17 years, but virtually. It was my first time physically there at the invitation of John Messner, and we've been doing BIM storms in there from 17 years ago. So walking in there was really impressive because they have an architectural engineering department and a college of engineering. There are other engineering disciplines there, and they're connecting across with different disciplines, which was the most interesting thing for me, especially in today's day and age of something that's so cross-disciplinary. I talked to the students there, and I heard the word business process modeling, which caught my ear because I've always been interested in it, but maybe to break it down a little bit. And then I saw on the wall, John said, well, here's how I teach them about business process modeling. It's about how to It was a recipe for, it wasn't an apple pie, but I use apple pie always as how do you bake an apple pie, essentially, as you don't want anchovies in apple pie, things like that. And who's involved with baking it and what tools do you need? So by capturing the process in a repeatable way and sharing it as an open source or open standard, well, here's how you bake apple pie, the recipe. Well, how do we make buildings smarter? Well, here's how you do that. So that's what I saw there. I saw them doing a lot of other things relating to engineering, but also capturing the process.
Excellent. So both of you have been working on this PAE pilot project, and you've been capturing processes. So you're very well aware of what might fit into an umbrella business process model standard. And Tristan, are there any universal concepts that you think we need to include in this business process model standard we're developing?
Well, as Kimon and all of us have discovered, even a 5-year-old marquee building that's supposed to be there, that was designed by a leading engineering and architectural firm, that's the headquarters for a leading engineering firm, where they tour 4,000 people a year through that building to show it off. And they tried to obviously spec it 5 years ago to be, full of solar and batteries and compostable toilets and amazing stuff. And I went through a tour of that building, and people would say, "Oh, you have all this data. How are you using the data?" And they said, "Well, we have 100,000 data points in the building management system. That's too much, too overwhelming for us. We have a lot of other data that we just don't see. We have to log into every siloed system independently." So we said, "Oh, well, let's have a business process where even this brand new building can be more useful to you and more visible and more orchestratable." Because they would love, if as anybody who has solar knows, that the more you use solar in the building and the less you try and benefit and export to the grid, the better, right? The grid is just designed to never pay you as much as you're paying them. Kind of standard business process, speaking of business process. So they wanted to take their solar and, when it was a good solar day, restrain their water heaters so that they could use them in the afternoon and absorb that solar. Just that simple level of orchestration was not even possible. So we put in just one of our magical little super skyboxes, and all of a sudden we're able to connect to the building data. Interestingly enough, and Kimon will talk more about this because he has so much experience looking at building data historically. And so it took us a while because we had to constantly keep getting we had a meeting every week with that building and getting the engineers to look at things up in documents and trying to get it from other places, again, that Kimon will talk about. So after this initial pilot, SkyCentrics said, "Hey, this is an opportunity to make this whole process way more easy, because the bottom line, the building owner wants to see the data, and Kimon has this beautiful platform that he'll talk about that can do a lot of things with live data, could be much more enhanced." So we've realized that, hey, we've got AI now. We can ingest all the documentation of a building and all the manuals of the machines in the building. And when we connect and we do BACnet discovery and Modbus discovery to discover all the points as they come in, we can use the manuals that we parse with AI to decide what are the important points. Most people don't want to see 100,000 points. A lot of them are configuration points that are rarely used, right? So there's a few things you really need from each machine to be able to understand that it's working kind of okay, and to be able to potentially orchestrate it to maybe limit peak demand charges or do a better job of managing your solar, your batteries, or your grid, and lowering your cost. At the end of the day, more comfort, lower costs. So it's super exciting that we've had this opportunity to work together. And lastly, as you said, Mike, it's critical to have multi-vendor solutions. Our goal is to make all of this data available in a Number one, the modern business process you talked about. Number two, the standard data structure you talked about, so that we can start giving building owners, imagine building owners that are out there, asset owners, this notion that, like with your phone, you can pick different apps and the apps are competing for your business, and you can just pick an app and say, oh, this app will help me lower my cost this way. This app will help me increase my comfort this way. That's the grand vision, and we're happy to be a part of it.
It's great to observe you doing this. And Kimo, before we go over to you, I want to say something about PAE and how wonderful they are. They are forward thinkers, and a lot of people don't focus on the ISO 55000 and 55001, but I've been kind of applying this as an overlay without anyone on this pilot project knowing. And one of the key ones is ISO 55001 10.1, continual improvement. So even though PAE has this spectacular building that they're very proud of, they are the type that are interested in continually improving it. And we just really applaud their involvement in this.
Yeah. And maybe to add to that, Mike, we've seen PAE, which is a leading engineer in the country and the world, like Tristan said, yet they still struggle with this, right? But they're sharing what their struggles are. And I know every single other owner has more than these struggles, yet a lot of times if you start talking about the fantastic thing, we could call it the Hollywood BIM or Hollywood digital twin, you don't talk about the things that don't work. And all of a sudden you're not solving the things that don't work. Yet every owner has this struggle. And once you put it out in the open, well, here's how we can fix it. And that's what this business process modeling is about. If PA can set the stage for that and share it, then anybody should be able to say, well, here's what we need fixing. Because the technology has been there and is there. It's just a matter of the governance and making it work.
Excellent. So one of the things we want to do with establishing a business process model is helping people spell out what their use their mission and then understand the steps they need to get. It's a human behavior issue to want to just go to the tech and have the tech be a magic, pill that solves everything, but it is not. In order for the tech to work, there has to be the human governance factor. And that's what we're talking about today, is that business process model that a company has to have, but they can't have it if they don't know that the technology is there for them to have. They just can't run straight to the technology. They've got to go through this. So Kimon, you said you've seen many companies that have these problems. You're very kind and not mentioning anybody, but you see it over and over again from building owners.
Yes.
So is there a first part of the business process model standard that you think we should include, or is there some key points that you think we should include in a business process model standard?
Well, you have to, if you start something, you have to have some kind of a goal. If you're going to bake an apple pie, you're going to eat the apple pie or sell the apple pie or whatever it might be. So from a business owner's perspective, if you're going to do anything about managing energy and use of a building, if you want to declare a building or a city smart, then we need to make it smart. And the first step in making it smart is kind of putting everything on the table of what you have. And one part of it is you need a map or kind of a context, because if you have, you need both actually. So if you have these thousands of data points that Tristan's talking about, and you can't see a pattern, you can start seeing some kind of a pattern. If you put it into a graph and you see patterns of, energy use in the PAE building, we saw that, and that's valuable. When you start attaching that to a map of the building and saying, in this space on this floor, there is this happening. Where is this happening? What's the context of that? There's a piece of equipment on the first floor that's controlling whatever it might be, the lights or the mechanical system. So that mapping capability is so critical, and we're already used to that on our mobile devices. When we call up an Uber, you don't do it without a map. You say, I am here, come get me. And it also doesn't ask you how much oil do you want in the car or how much gas do you want in the car. It says, here's the price. So the use case and the business process is very important, because you're not piling everything into a complex kind of a use case, and you're solving that business need. And then you're getting everybody on board to say, yes, we need a map, we need a signal, we need open standards and open source connections so we can see that. And then we need a user interface that talks to the end user without overwhelming them with, well, here's 1,000 data points, you go figure it out.
Okay, so that last sentence had, I think, many of the elements that we will include in a business process model standard. Is the owners have to say that they want to see a visual representation of their buildings, their assets. And let's say it is these, big iron. They want to see where their high, their suspension wire towers are. We want to use Google Earth, and we want to map inside of our buildings also.
Well, you even start at a higher level. You don't start by saying, I want a map. It's they want to manage energy and they want to see the look. I mean, that kind of dialogue has to start, because if you start with, I need a map, then you start building the map. I'm saying the map is important, but that's not the only thing. There's a
Okay.
business driver of why do I need a map? Because sometimes you don't need a map. You just need a warning that says this thing's overheating on my phone, and I could see that that's happening.
Yeah, but what Tristan was saying about these multi-vendor solutions, um, being able to see that a generator is red, it's not yellow, it's not green, it's red, it helps people say, well, okay, it's that generator that's the issue.
Yeah, yeah. You end up with, you need to see the location if you want to find, well, is it A or B? You see A and B on the list, but if you see on the map, then yeah, then you say, no, it's that one in that corner of the room. And we had many use cases like that in the PA building. We're still actually going through it.
Yes, it's a pilot project. It's not.
Yeah.
I think one way to think about it, right, is I mentioned comfort and cost. So, the machines cost money. They have alerts, and it's wonderful to get those alerts in real time. Everybody knows their cars have much more sensors and are giving them alerts. My car tells me when my tire is a little bit low now, so I can go pump air in it, and that's a very low cost versus blowing out on the highway and needing a tow truck, which is high cost. So all these modern machines have the sensors and the alerts that we bring to real time. So now you can have a low cost right away, right just in time fix. But in terms of comfort, the other thing that happens in buildings is people complain about their comfort. And, depending on your level of relationship with them, you either tell them to suck it up. Unfortunately, a lot of us have had that, or somebody comes in and tries to fix it. But I think what Kimon brings to the table, obviously, is by the comfort, he right away says, oh, the comfort problem is happening in this space. Well, great. Let's go see the live data in the machines that are impacting that space. So that's kind of that particular relationship that I think shows.
Okay. So the openness that I've been really enjoying working with the Linux Foundation team, and everybody is involved in this, is just pre-qualified as wanting to share information and provide a solution that's repeatable by others, whether they're involved with it or not. And I really admire both of you and all the people in this project, because once this is out there, people can repeat what you're doing even if you're not involved with it. And both of you know that the problems in the world are so big that you can't solve them all, and you're contributing to the solution set, and you're fine with the part of the reward that you're going to get out of that. What level of openness has to be specified in an open in a business process model standard? Is that an important element to just include in that?
Well, that could easily be a bit of a deep rabbit hole. So let me just say that there's a lot of people that know that customers, end users, want to have plug and play, interoperable, the benefits that we have that, we use Apple computers and Microsoft computers. Originally text messaging didn't work with AOL. I mean, there's all kinds of historical records of not plug and play, interoperable, multi-vendor, ease of use happening. And we've all seen the benefits of when that is available. So open can mean open and interoperable without open source software. So some of the things I just talked about happened without any open source software. And at the same time, people have talked about, oh, we're open And then you can go on LinkedIn, dig into smarter buildings and see really smart people talking about, well, they say they're open, but they're not open. So it is a deep dive. Let me just say that the Linux Foundation is the world's biggest community of open and definitions of open and promoting open. So it's nice to be in their umbrella and that everybody knows, hey, if you're in their umbrella, you're serious about open. Having said all that, happy to answer questions if they come up. Open source software is yet a different level, right? Where that means there's software there that anybody can pick up in the GitHub repository or repo and add to it, use it. So that's a big deal. That's obviously not often been in commercial buildings and the solutions that are provided. So that's what's happening.
Yeah, that is the transformation. Kimon, have you seen it like this before?
Yeah, and just to build up off of what Tristan said, I think it's also a combination. You can have proprietary systems using open standards connections, or even using open source solutions in the middle to talk to each other. And maybe the open approach is the best example actually is what we're doing right now with the PA building and the C4SB. The fact that I can see a signal from SkyCentrics in my application, and we're capturing this process, and we're going to make it repeatable that others can also connect to maps, for example. That's a perfect example. And I think the most important thing for me, my experience has been you hear a lot of talk about, yes, we are open, yes, we have APIs, yet until you actually see it and touch it and do something with it, it's just all marketing fluff until it becomes real. So exposing well, here's how we are open. Here's how you connect to us, not just talking about it or saying you are open. And the last piece is also having, from a digital twin perspective, having kind of two-way connectivity, depending on the use cases. There's a lot of open solutions out there that just want to suck data into their system and then trap it in that system. So it becomes a trap sometimes that say, yeah, we're open, just give us everything. We're open, but it's a one-way door.
Gotcha. So two-way connectivity is important. Tristan?
Yeah, just a quick addition. Uh, the biggest, I think it is important because you may have obviously owners and asset managers in your audience today, but there may be also some vendors. And, vendors always are like, well, wait a minute, if it's all open source and anybody can grab it, how do I make money? So just want to remind people that Red Hat Linux provided enterprise support and solutions and participated in the open source community, typically releasing their additions to the open source community 6 months later, but making sure that their enterprise clients were getting immediate support, bug fixes, etc. And then Red Hat Linux sold for $40 billion to IBM. One other thing about this is the whole point of cybersecurity, right? Why did Linux take over every server on the internet, even though it was open source software? Well, because when it's open source, everybody gets to see it. And it's the fastest way to find out whether it's secure or not. And if anybody finds a hole, they instantly publish it and it gets fixed faster than was ever fixed before. So it used to be in the early 90s of the internet, it was security by obscurity. And it turned into, hey, everybody realized that open source software was more cyber secure by definition. So that's exciting also because I know a lot of asset managers, building owners are concerned about that. There's been a few, well-published problems like Target, I think, getting hacked through the HVAC system. So just wanted to mention those two things.
Yes, and the fact that the Department of Defense uses Linux Foundation software for almost everything because of its security capabilities. That's great. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that even though the foundation software code is open, then you take it in-house and add your part onto it, and that's your secret sauce, that's your security that's added onto it. But the foundation is tested.
There's actually another layer to that, Mike. It's not just that, it's also the data that's stored in it. So if you have a system that stores whatever personnel data, you're not open sourcing people's social security numbers. You're open sourcing the structure that protects that social security number. And it gets conflated a lot of times. Oh, it's open, everybody can get to the data. Not true.
And that's proven by the banks are on the internet on all those Linux servers, and obviously there's a way to keep our banks secure, at least so far. Hallelujah to that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So one of the things I've always said was there's risk management, there's not risk elimination. And banks put their money in safes, but Wild West robbers would, use dynamite to blow them up. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happened then, and there's always going to be an issue. But this is proven to be the most secure way, even though it's open. It's what we're getting to is a level of complexity that is challenging to people. And I'm really honored to be working with this team because it's working to simplify these complex issues. And that's kind of indicated by what I said at the beginning. This is addressing building industry issues, energy issues, infrastructure issues. It's a conflation of industries coming together to benefit from the solution that we're evolving through the Linux Foundation's Coalition for Smarter Buildings. Human behavior is really the wild card in all of this. The technology works, the processes work. It's the human behavior, which is why the Asset Leadership Network is driving hard on this to the owners. The owners are the leaders, and it's not about the architects, engineers, and contractors telling the owners what to do. Owners, you've got to you've got to put it in your contracts. And we're trying to establish the standard operating procedures that you can use and replicate. And let me ask both Kimon and Tristan, how do you feel owners typically are, and are they going to respond to this approach, or want to kind of hold their feet to the fire to say that they've got to not only put it in their contracts, they've got to enforce it?
Well, I'll speak briefly to that idea. So one of the things that's been frustrating for owners is and by the way, there's a few resources like Div 2525 for the CSI master format was written, providing owners a template to ask for these things. Kimon's going to give you a lot of ideas on how to either specify any retrofit or large retrofit or new construction that you're doing so that it's kind of ready for this. But as I said with the PAE building, I mean, we'll take the building wherever it is and make it better. But the owners can get those resources, can ask for things, but every owner that we know has said, hey, it's a black box. I'd like to know, again, are things happening okay? And so the first thing that they get is visibility. And everybody knows if you can't measure something, you can't optimize it. So they're getting visibility, then they're getting the alerts. So even without any controls, grid signals, fancy things, they're finally seeing all their systems available in one place, easy export. Like I said, creating an app ecosystem. Kimon and SkyCentrics are first the integration of multiple apps so that they can start working with multiple vendors to get things they want. So it's basically bringing the iPhone plug and play interoperable world to buildings that unfortunately have not had that yet. We like to say buildings are the last vertical market to be digitized. So let's digitize them.
Absolutely,
I've
yeah.
been saying that for 25 years that I've known him.
Yeah, it's first of all, I think the owners are the ones that can drive this discussion. A lot of owners are trapped in the old thinking, or not only the old thinking, they're trapped in their buildings are over controlled with old systems that come from the past. At the same time, they complain they can't see the data in their building, they can't control the buildings. Okay, if that's the case, the technology is there today to do that, but you have to change your contracting, and even your internal teams that support these older systems sometimes are the roadblock too. If you build something internally that's built on 30-year-old technology, then you have a bunch of consultants and internal teams that support that, and all of a sudden you have this whole layer of It's basically blocking any kind of innovation and change. At the same time, because the technology is there, I think the standard of care is shifting. That is no longer acceptable because it's a high risk place to be, not only from efficiency and making rooms comfortable, but from attacks, for example. And we talk about that quite a bit too. So what happens if something bad happens and it surfaces that the owners knew that there was a better way to do this? You can't just kind of sit behind blinders and say, well, it works now. Why fix something that's not broken? Well, it's broken. It doesn't work. 90 whatever percent of the buildings don't do this. Your buildings are on fire, and that's another discussion, but it's a crisis. And I think it's up to us as an industry. It's absolutely embarrassing if we don't fix this because we're way behind, like Tristan said. That it's just, there's so much room for improvement. It's just ridiculous in many ways. And let's stop just talking about the pretty things that work, the shiny objects. There's a lot of shiny object stuff happening. Oh, look at this cool thing that does this and do that. Important kind of a vision, but that's not scaled. It's basically just a few key examples which help us think in those terms. But there's a lot of simple things that can happen, like we're talking about with the PAE building. It's essentially there's 1,000 signals. There's somewhere in the building these signals are happening. Let's connect the dots and see where there might be a pattern that we might be able to see value or reduce risk.
Yes. I think it's 100,000.
100,000,
Only
sorry.
1,000, that would
Well,
be
we
nice.
just,
But
there we go. Yeah, you're 100, and you multiply that times whatever, you know, it
however
just
you
it
go.
becomes
Well, that's
exponential.
where you want AI to help. Nobody
That's
wants to
right.
manually go through 100,000 points, so let the machine do it.
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to take a moment now to talk about how this is all coming together and how happy the ALN is in helping to not only assist with creating the solution, but then get out the information in a rapid deployment of best practices. I'm specifically using military terms because we're fighting a war against all of these buildings on fire, and it's literally buildings on fire. So I'm happy to announce that the Asset Leadership Network has been named the chair of the United Nations Infrastructure Asset Management, AI, and Digital Tools Task Force. So part of what we're going to be doing is showing the United Nations this work that we're doing, get them involved in helping write these standards because we want them to be global standards, and then use the UN as a distribution channel for getting these best practices out as fast as possible around the world. So that's a call for the audience to reach out to join us in these standards developments. And in joining us as a pilot project member, that you can get involved and show how you can be part of the connection of getting this rapid deployment of best practices out there. So let's go around and have some final comments. Kimon, let you go first.
Yeah, I think with the PA pilot, the intent is to show that this is possible. So we're already there. There's a lot more work to do. But I think it would be important for owners to realize there's an easy place. It sounds so complex, but there's always an easy place to start. It's not as scary or complex as it might seem at first. It is, the current situation is scary and complex. There's so much complexity, they have no visibility. So there's always a place to start. You can start simple and you can scale from there. So don't be afraid about just jumping in, but also don't try and do it alone. It's good to be part of the industry and the open standards, open source approach that we've been talking about, and collaborate, because nobody can do everything. You have to kind of be able to connect to others that have solutions that are open, just like Tristan and I are doing. I didn't have to build a SkyCentrics system, and I would never even know how to do it, but look how valuable it is if you connect the two.
Great.
Just
Well, I'm seeing some insurance comments in the chat, and you know, it is interesting that my founder origin story was the icicle breaking my window. So you can imagine that a month of snow coming in my living room wasn't fun for the insurance company, let alone water damage, et cetera. So we do have an Internet of Things world that can provide us a lot more visibility, but it hasn't really gotten to commercial buildings in a flexible, open way. Everybody makes their little Internet of Things proprietary silos, whether it's air quality monitors, et cetera. So it's finally time to bring this modern IT, cyber secure, open architecture to and look at all the value creation that was done when information technologies brought data to an open place on all the projects that are doing this. What happened, right? The last 2 years showed that if you can get to the data, you can do incredible things with machine learning, let alone artificial intelligence. So let's have artificial intelligence be helping wherever it can to make our buildings lower cost to manage, to operate, et cetera. And then you also use the military analogy. And I have to admit, I've had the good fortune of working with a few guys, and when they use certain language, you know right away that they're Marines, right? So I talked about the colleague who said, I kind of just want to know that everything's okay. She was not a Marine, but one of our clients said, I just want situational awareness on my 100 buildings. So there it is. Field level situational awareness. That's what people want. It sounds like insurance companies want it also. They want their customers to have more of it. So let's get it to them in a low cost, effective way.
So thank you to two of our leading members who are leading this pilot project initiative. We're going to be talking more about these pilot projects next week with the Coalition for Smarter Buildings. We're going to have Rick Justice back to tell the origin story of the Coalition for Smarter Buildings, along with Anto Budiarjo, president and founder of Patty.io, who is also a member. And then on the 30th, we're going to be having a web program that includes the PAE people, and it's going to be a full hour explaining what that pilot project is up to, the success it's had so far, the rapidly evolving developments that we expect before the end of the year, and then the longer picture that we have there. And we were going to be meeting in person in Washington, D.C. for a summit on the 28th. That is now just a no host reception and a no host dinner in Washington, D.C. on the 28th. There is going to be a meeting at the National Institute of Building Sciences prior to that. So there'll be a few of us getting together in person. And what this project has done is really expanded us to include National Institutes of Standards and Technology, the national laboratories. And so we're also going to have some people from federal agencies that are involved in this there. So keep that in mind and reach out to me if there's any interest. And Tristan and Kimon, thank you so much for all you're doing, and especially for your time today. And thanks to all the audience for your ongoing interest. Bye for now.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.